Welcome to High Gluttony. I'm Gretchen.
And I'm Becca.
And we are traveling to Portugal to make and learn more about the classic soup, Caldo Verde.
This soup is created with pretty easy to find ingredients, including a broth of your choice, potatoes, kale, onion, garlic, and olive oil. So pretty simple.
It's a world level one for sure. Like, even if you feel like you don't have any skills, I think you can handle this.
Yep. This will be your new favorite thing to make.
We don't use any special equipment really beyond a vegetable peeler, but I'm assuming that we really don't consider that specialty equipment.
No, but good to know.
And this can be assembled pretty quickly if you need something hearty and healthy. I think even though it took us 45 minutes, I think the next time I make it, it will take us less time. So
I agree. We do kind of use a compilation of recipes, mostly because Gretchen will say, but they're really similar. There's kind of a classic recipe that you follow, but we did get our recipe from a book that Gretchen has called The Taste of Portugal. So we'll put that up on the website. But even though there was a recipe, there is a recipe by Kenji Lopez Alt, because we love him. We used all of our strength to stay away from it and do something else. It helped that Gretchen had the Taste of Portugal book, but we were not surprised to see after we found this recipe that Kenji has a Caldo Verde recipe.
Yes. Check out our website where we'll be sharing the recipe and our thoughts / substitutions and whatnot. And like and subscribe wherever you're listening right now. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at High Gluttony. And enjoy Caldo Verde.
Yeah, have fun. Welcome to section 1, everybody. Settle in, sit back, grab your consumption tool of choice if you're just listening or if you're cooking also, but follow along with us as we start to cook. So we kick off this section with sharing what we're both enjoying drink-wise and cannabis-wise. I kept saying caryophyllene as the terpene I'm trying to avoid, but it's really myrcene, and I'm not sure why I kept saying caryophyllene. My new trick is myrcene, not mycene. So I'm trying to learn how to remember.
I like it.
But next we talk about the ingredients we're using, and then Gretchen shares the recipe so that you know what is going on.
Then we chat about the special type of cabbage that's used traditionally for this soup and what our additional options are for what you can do, because we don't have that special cabbage here in the US. So if you're lucky enough to be somebody from Portugal and can get the proper cabbage, good for you. But we do talk a bit about greens, so we hope you enjoy all of that fun, green, leafy talk.
Fun, green, leafy talk.
So what are you smoking today?
Oh, I actually forgot to grab it. It's called El Norte, and I kind of remember off the top of my head. It is a hybrid, which most of them are these days, so it doesn't mean too much.
Yeah.
But it had 21.9% THC, and then it was limonene, shortly followed by caryophyllene, and then I can't remember the last two. But I'm still playing around with that caryophyllene avoidance. So it's been fun. But I love this one.
So you've now come to think that caryophyllene is your problem?
I don't know if it's my problem, but I think when it is the most dominant significantly, if it's kind of caryophyllene shortly followed by limonene, that's okay. But if it's like mostly caryophyllene and then just a little bit of the other stuff, I don't enjoy myself. I get very paranoid. I get very anxious, and I feel like I grind my teeth. And I've attributed that to the strain, but I think it's my anxiety just making me like clench a little more. So I don't know what it is. And those are kind of the most dominant of the selection I have right now. So I can't really play around with the other one. I don't know, but I've mostly just gravitated more and more towards limonene as my preference so far.
I think it's the tastiest one, so that makes sense to me.
That too. So even better. What about you? What are you
You know what?
smoking?
I was gonna say I was gonna smoke a vaporizer, but I've decided now that I want to smoke some flower. I am gonna smoke this Pacific Dream. So this has a THC level of 18.8% and CBD is worn off a bit here. So no, I have no idea.
Cannot compute.
Cannot compute. But it's all natural cannabis.
Well, I hope so.
Next time I'll have to not switch horses in the middle of the game. That's not how that saying goes.
No, I think don't switch horses in the middle of the game. That's the that's the classic whodunit.
The classic whodunit. You mean the classic colloquialism or whatever it is?
I was just going with it.
I'm gonna Google Pacific Dream real quick and see if I can.
Okay. Good, because I've already gone through my first glass of Vino Verde, so that's good timing.
Oh, this is an interesting website. So this is a properhigh.com. I'm assuming this is just either a tracking site or something like that.
Okay.
The proper report. So they're saying the aromatics are sweet and floral, and the flavor is sweet with berries. Smells like pot to me, so we're doing great. Effects felt as euphoric, energized, relief, relaxed, and focused. Oh, that will be good for this.
Yes, this might be the perfect combo for a recording.
It says it's very potent. I was stressed. Somebody's review was, I stressed out by the amount of work I need to get done, but this left me feeling relaxed and capable. Dear God, there's a pot that can do that.
Right? Light it up. Does it have terpene?
It just says myrcene and no percentage, but we'll see.
Okay.
Chin chin. Are you allowed to say chin chin for pot? I feel like you should be able to.
We say cheers.
I'm smoking out of the metronome today.
Nice. And what are you drinking?
I have my Vino Verde is Orlana Vino Verde.
Nice.
Chic bottle, I feel like. My favorite part, 9% alcohol.
Incredible.
I love it. I love European wine. It's so balanced and lovely. Frickin' California shit that has such a high alcohol content. You're drunk after one glass.
And already have a hangover.
Pretty much immediately.
Mm-hmm. Gretchen and I are both drinking Vino Verde because, as you heard in the intro, we're making Caldo Verde from Portugal. Mine is called Mica, or the label is Mica. And it's nice. I think it needs to be a little bit colder. It does have just a little hint of that effervescence. So It's super fun.
Mine as well. I might have to buy more of this, and since I like the bottle and it's going to go in my sea glass bin that I keep filling with more and more glass, and I can only do 2 pounds of glass at a time.
So good thing there's a stopping point.
Once the bin's full, then
time to pause.
We'll go over our recipe real quick and the steps. This is probably, I feel like this is the easiest thing we've ever done on this podcast. Except maybe chimichurri. That might have been slightly easier. I don't know.
Yes, I agree. We'll see how it goes after the end of this. And with chimichurri, we still needed a food processor. And that's not hard. That does make it easy. But in terms of cleanup and utilization of tools and equipment and stuff, I never want to use the food processor. So this is easier in that way too, for me, mentally.
The cleanup on this is going to be excellent because most of my prep dishes I can just throw in the dishwasher. It'll be one pot that cooks everything already, like 2 dishes for that. So really I've got hand washing down to 2 dishes, everything else, dishwasher.
Amazing. So this is a soup.
Yes.
It does have a limited amount of ingredients, but they're all very important. We'll start off with olive oil, and we're using 3 to 4 tablespoons. We are using 4 potatoes. I wanted Yukon Gold, but the ones at the market I was at weren't in great shape, so I ended up with russet. What kind are you using?
Darn. I was thinking, stick to the point, Gretchen, because I was about to go down a rabbit hole that no one needed. I picked up some russets when I was at the farmer's market this morning, because as we'd seen in Kenji's recipe, he uses 2 different types of potato. So I was like, do I want to try the Kenji thing? And I was like, nope. You know what? I did. So I have the potatoes for it. depending on how easy this is, I may make more potato verde.
Green potato.
Caldo Verde. So I'm using Yukon Golds. I kind of wish we'd talked so that I could have used russets.
Right.
When we would both be using the same potato.
Next time.
I think that'll be fine. Yeah, next time. There's only so much improvement we could do in each episode.
And it feels like we talk to each other all the time. So just
every fucking day. Yeah. Like
day.
How is this information we didn't?
How did we miss it? Yeah. All right. So olive oil, 4 potatoes, 1 pound of kale, which we'll thinly slice. And we did, just to back up a second, we already did peel and cut up our potatoes. Then we've got 1 onion that is already diced for both of us, 3 to 4 garlic cloves sliced, and 6 to 7 cups of broth or stock. Oh, and black olives for me. Are you using a meat?
No, I forgot to get it.
Okay.
I forgot to get one. I was like, I'm going to go to Trader Joe's. And for some reason, like the black olives were just stuck in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Trader Joe's and I'm going to get black olives.
Right.
Actually, well, not that it would be remotely authentic. I picked up some sliced salami from the Parma ham salami they have at Trader Joe's. So I could throw that on there if I felt like it. It's pre-sliced, so wouldn't be my favorite thing. I did buy prosciutto today. So I do have some cured pork products I could throw in there if I felt saucy about crossing genres there. What's the word? Nationalities? Countries? Borders. Thank you. Crossing food borders.
And so black olives, which are just go on the top, and dancing. You can't see her, but Gretchen's doing fun dancing.
Fun thing, dancing.
I'm trying to describe it. Yeah. Can you talk to us now about where our recipe's coming from, and then the first couple of steps?
I'll try. So the recipe, our recipe is essentially several different recipes or all recipes for Caldo Verde, although I did read some blogs that were like, there's basically as many Caldo Verde recipes as there are people in Portugal. Maybe not quite that, but
a close second.
Like basically everybody's got their own recipe for it. But in general, this seems to be the general guideline of what we're putting in there.
I guess you said kind of, it's just a compilation of recipes. So perfect.
Yeah, and I don't even know if you asked me to say that, but apparently I needed to say it.
Well, I said where was the recipe from, but
you did, yeah. So it's a compilation. But I also didn't need to repeat it, which is what I was about to do. So for equipment, you're going to need a cutting board and a knife, so you can cut up all your ingredients. A large pot with or without a lid. I don't think it was specific on if it needed a lid or not. And a ladle or a spoon. So those are your equipment things that you're going to need. So we're going to start by heating up our pot. And really, you could scale this recipe pretty easily to make one bowl, or depending on your serving size. We're just making a few servings today. So we're heating our pot. Then we're going to add our olive oil and saute the onions until they are translucent. Should take 3 to 5 minutes for that. Add your garlic and cook until you can smell it. So hopefully your sniffer is working at this time. And as soon as you can really smell that garlic, you're going to add the stock and then the potatoes. You can add a lid or not a lid. Cook until the potatoes are tender, depending on how you cut it. Now, I did see one recipe where they left the potatoes whole and cooked them until those were tender and then mashed them. Pretty much every other recipe, though, was cutting up the potatoes, which makes the most sense because that's going to cook a lot faster than if you're trying to cook the whole potato. Once the potatoes are cooked, you can pull them out of the liquid and smash them up if you want to be like real exact about
moisture?
Getting them fully smashed up. This pot is making me feel good, but apparently it is making talking a little bit of a challenge. If you would like to make sure your potatoes are very smooth, you can remove them from the liquid, smash them up, and then put them back. Being that I am not about making any more dishes, I will be smashing mine in the pot. I don't care if there's like chunks of potato. That's all right with me. I don't know what would happen if you use an immersion blender, because pretty much it seemed like most of the recipes we're saying just smash the potato. And I think part of that is it's a rustic soup.
So that chunkiness is okay.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be refined.
Right. Well, you can obviously make it super fancy.
Sure.
But
I'm sure people do.
I'm sure people do. But is that what I'm doing right now? No.
Yeah, we said easiest, and we were going to make this the easiest high gluttony recipe so far.
Smash your potatoes. Then you're going to add your thinly sliced kale and cook until that's tender. It should take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. And then it's good. You can eat it. Add your sausage if you've got it, or black olives. Apparently we're going with black olives today. Unless I decide to make this into a whole international thing with a bit of Italian influence there. So We'll see how I feel once we get there.
One of the important parts of most of the recipes that we came across was the way you cut up the kale. But actually, before we get to that, so we are using kale today, but typically this soup is made with a special type of cabbage, which is a brassica. So kale is fine to use and other things are okay to use. But this particular cabbage for Caldo Verde is very special, right?
Very special. And funny enough, would you happen to know that on one of my favorite nursery sites, I had this said cabbage in my wish list?
Of course you did.
I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, oh no. And we went a couple months ago. I'm like, I didn't even know. I should have looked. I don't do well with brassicas here, though. The aphids, I have so many aphids and they just eat them.
Not worth it.
So I was very confused reading this recipe because it says kale in the ingredient list, but then they switched from kale, like after you chop it, to cabbage. And I was like, what are they talking about? And then they kept using cabbage. And I was like, what is she talking about? Well, had I read the intro to the recipe, I would have found out about this very special cabbage called Galegas, meaning that they originally came from, I want to say Galicia. Pronunciation might not be quite right there. A neighboring Spanish province. So it grows very similar to kale, where it's more of an upright, leafy plant. It doesn't have a collected head, quite like a cabbage. Actually, I think and it also said like Brussels sprout plants. So I think it forms a little like sort of side head. So in the book, it does say that curly kale is remarkably similar to it. They also suggest collard greens, but I just can't get on board with collard greens. I don't like them that much. So
any of those things that I don't really love, I just put a lot of jalapeno juice in.
Can't argue with that method. I would never dare. So I just realized you can, I'm kicking myself right now. There was a note on the next page about this recipe. And it says the basic potato thickener can be used for straightforward, similar soups, all very popular with the Portuguese. Instead of kale, use watercress. She's also put, oh man, and I'm assuming this is a woman. Fix it later. Purslane next to watercress, but as far as I know, those are not the same. So I need
parsley
to look
and watercress?
No, not parsley.
Oh.
Purslane.
What's that?
It's a weed. You can find it pretty much anywhere. You could also do turnip top as another type of green. I mean, like they've basically just put 7 different types of suggestions. It says also very tender green beans, adjusting the cooking times for these vegetables. Chinese leaves are also good for this type of soup. So
what
I don't
are
know.
Chinese leaves?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
That might be bok choy. There's a vendor and they have this really interesting Chinese broccoli, it's like got little teeny tiny heads of like broccoli and lots of greens around kind of a thicker stem. Like it almost looks like a bit of like a cross between bok choy and broccolini. So that has that sort of smooth leaf. And then they also carry a type of mustard that has a similar structure. And it's very good. They're very good for stir fries. I bet they'd be really good in this soup.
That sounds fun. Chinese greens.
I mean, I think you could pretty much go with any thickish leafy green. You want something that's going to cook fairly quickly, but not totally fall apart. So that's why kale is good. It's got good structure to it.
Got it.
we pick up section 2 when we're finishing up our prep and about to start cutting our kale. And then it's time to start cooking our ingredients, starting with the onions, garlic, broth, and potatoes.
And then while we wait for our potatoes to cook down, we chat about some fun facts about Caldo Verde that we learned, which was very cool.
And the pronunciation, we discussed the pronunciation of chorizo. And I guess in Portugal, it's a little bit more like chorizo. It's a more of an S sound, but pretty close to chorizo. So chorizo. I might even say it like that. I can't remember right now. And we finish our soup by adding the kale and letting that cook for a little bit. And we both just kind of let it chill because we eat it later that day.
So you don't get the taste test results in this part of it. Well, you do. We tasted it.
Right. Yeah. You got to taste what you're cooking. Otherwise, we're doing a terrible job. That's like a big thing of it. So we're kicking it off by making little stacks of our kale. Stacks are better, especially with this recipe where they're kind of saying it should look a little bit like long, thinner strips. Whereas if you're not stacking it, the best you're going to be able to do is kind of make like what I would call confetti, really.
You mean when it's just loose?
Yeah. You can't dictate the shape as well.
Can you describe what kind of kale we're using today?
We're using a curly, oh no, I lost some. Kale down. Bunnies.
Curly kale
bunnies.
Down. Bunnies to the rescue.
Bunnies to the cleanup. Bunnies clean up on the Island.
All right, so curly kale.
Curly kale, which we are now going to slice. We're going to slice that nice kale structure right down.
Yeah, we are. Goodbye, structure. Is it important for these to be like long ribbons or very small, thin pieces? What are we looking for in this?
I think, although the picture more looks like a rough chop on this one. So I'm going to just sort of cut pretty thin strips.
And so you've got layers of the kale stacked on top of each other. And then you're coming through and just cutting thin kind of ribbons along the okay.
Across the widest part.
Got it.
Of course. My very small leaves are
impossible.
Not the best for this. I'm not getting super long strands, which I think would be kind of nice, but it's just not where we're at.
Okay.
Man, a pound of kale is a lot of fucking chopped up kale, let me tell you.
It is a lot of It is a lot of kale, first of all. I was like, a pound. I actually got way more than that just because I wasn't paying attention, but
I didn't even weigh mine. So I have really zero idea.
A pound of kale is a lot, I presume.
I got one. Well, I got a bunch. I kind of assume. I mean, a pound is not a lot, but
yeah. It's just funny how you immediately go, I don't know, I didn't weigh mine, but
I got one small bunch. I got one bunch of kale, which I pretty much was like, it's not like I could get less than this if it's more than a pound. So I'm going to take the whole thing. It doesn't matter. I'm also going to put the whole thing into the soup. So that also doesn't matter. I may be over greening or under greening. We'll have to find out.
My broth is a little dark, so I'm not sure if the green is going to come through. I hope it does.
I've got mine all chopped.
Wow, that was fast.
So my pound really ended up being about, I think that this is a 1 quart. I don't know.
I think I'm closing in on the last of my strips here.
Alrighty. I have another hit before I start working with fire.
Right, good call. Did you turn your pan on? Should I heat mine up?
Go ahead and heat yours up.
What temperature?
Medium high.
Okay. Did you put your olive oil in?
I did. I've already started sauteing my onions. Okay. My pan was hot enough, so.
It was time.
I'm getting pretty soft.
No salt or anything, right? Just the onions and olive oil?
Yep, that's it.
All right.
My onions are completely translucent. I'm going in with my garlic. I kicked the heat down a little bit, and I may have kicked it down a little too much.
Okay. About how long do you think your onions took to cook down?
I could tell you pretty much exactly.
Okay, then.
5 minutes.
Okay.
So I can smell my garlic. Then another minute and a short amount of time, couple of seconds.
Okay.
I'm adding my stock.
And I'm adding my garlic and one tiny rogue piece of kale.
No, not rogue kale.
One very cooked down piece of kale.
Flavor enhanced.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm just gonna. I soaked my potatoes in water just to make sure they didn't turn brown. Ooh, no.
Okay.
And I'm gonna just put the water in with them. Soaking them in water release some of the starch from the potatoes. So adding the water that you've soaked them in just means you're ensuring you've gotten as much starch as you can out of the potatoes.
Got it.
I would have done a little bit less stock had I factored that in.
That makes
but
sense.
Can just cook it a little bit longer. So I'm turning this up to pretty much power boil, get it going.
Okay. I was going to say it's kind of like when you add pasta water that's right. You've cooked your pasta in back to your sauce.
Okay. Exactly, yeah.
Okay, garlic is fragrant. Gonna add my stock.
Gonna eat an olive.
So how long do you expect it to take for these to soften?
Maybe 20 minutes.
Okay. Are you gonna cover your pot?
No, because I'm filming it.
Excellent point.
And I did try to cover it, but it steamed up immediately and you couldn't see shit. So
okay. So new plan.
Different plan. Plus, since I put the extra water in there, I don't mind if there's some evaporation.
I'm going to cover mine. So
mine's really, my power boil has done its job. I'm turning the heat down now so that it can more simmer.
Go power boil. Yeah.
Power boil.
Should we chat a little bit about Caldo Verde then?
Yes, why don't you tell me what you found out about Caldo Verde, and then if we have time, I'll tell. I can either chime in with some shit or just listen to you.
Okay, Caldo Verde, meaning green broth, comes from the northern region of Portugal. Menu, is that right, Gretchen?
Menu, yeah. Okay. I had to listen to it several times because I was like, I kept looking at the pronunciation stuff, and I don't. My brain can't. Yeah. Not for me. Yeah. Not processing that. So somebody's got to say it to me. Menu, yes.
Menu. Okay. So way up north in the northern part of Portugal. So where it has been eaten for centuries. So this is a really sort of ancient, I guess, if you will, dish. And one of the reasons for that is because it is very simple, it's very nourishing, and it's really accessible, especially if you're on a budget. And there's a lot of nutrition in the kale or collard greens or that special cabbage where the actual soup is based on. But like Gretchen said earlier, there are so many variations of this dish now. It's adapted and evolved over time. Some versions I saw include even red beans, white beans, ham hock, or meat bones, which does feel also kind of along like the American South lines of sort of a stock bean soup kind of thing. It's really common at most holidays. It's that comfort food kind of soup that is also similar to ramen, as we learn. It kind of checks that box of starch, veggie, broth, quick and easy, budget friendly, kind of a working person's meal.
I think maybe we've just found a theme of how we're actually going to travel the world through comfort soups.
I'm in.
We'll stick with it. We'll go with that.
Okay. So really common at holidays. Since it's very simple, it can be thrown into a meal and feel really special still, but it also can be elevated a lot. It has a long history in the country by artists and poets referencing it. So you can often come across poetry or published work that will have common references to, quote, the green broth. And in particular, there was one song that was sung by a famous Portuguese singer that referenced Caldo Verde. And this almost became the sort of like second place national anthem of Portugal. And the line that they reference is, "It takes very little to simply brighten a life. Love, bread, wine, and hot Caldo Verde in a bowl."
That's awesome.
So sweet. That feels so comforting too. That sentence, that lyric. I haven't listened to the song, so I want to do that next. But it's true. Love bread, wine, and hot soup, especially if it's good for you.
Indeed.
I mean, even better.
I mean, yeah, with the amount of kale in this, I mean, pretty good for you. If this is a way I can get myself to eat more kale, then the whole thing will be worth it.
Kale is rough. It can be rough.
I think mine's been cooking about 15 minutes.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab the book and bring it over here. And if the potatoes aren't cooked through yet, then we'll look at the book and see if there's anything of value in there that we need to add.
Perfect.
From the way they feel when my spoon hits them, I'm gonna say they're not. Ooh. Oh, actually.
Getting soft?
Yeah, getting there.
I think mine need at least another 10 minutes.
Mine probably need at least another 5. They're not as easily mashable as I would like them to be.
It's a thin line on this, right? Because sometimes it can get too soft, or does that matter in this case?
I don't see how it could matter. Because once you've hit the mashable stage, then you add more cooking time on top of that. I don't think they care. It's not what we're here for.
Right.
We don't need any structural integrity on our potatoes. That is not something we need.
We don't need more of that. Are you going to serve this with anything else?
Bread, crusty bread. I think this recipe recommended like a cornbread, right?
That's right. I forgot. Cornbread was very common as an accompaniment to this soup.
You can serve the soup with a fresh wholemeal bread, so something fairly hearty. So yeah, any kind of corn, that would work. I'm going to read you the soup's intro page because
please.
The first sentence is fascinating, so that must mean that the rest of it is, right?
We'll see.
We saw how this betrayed me the last time.
Kale suddenly becoming cabbage.
Yep. In Portugal, it would be unthinkable not to have soup every day. They eat soup every day in Portugal, at least for dinner, if not for lunch as well. Generally speaking, soup is a must. There is always, as the Portuguese say, room for the soup. What is the soup today is the first question to housewives from their hungry family arriving home from work. Well, that's fairly sexist. Some country folk like to eat a good bowl of soup for breakfast if there is any left over from the previous day. This will provide enough sustenance for a hard morning's work, especially if it included some meat or bacon fat, pulses, and vegetables.
Pulses?
Beans and lentils are pulses.
Oh, okay.
That'll come up every once in a while. Sorry, didn't realize you didn't know that.
I don't know if a lot of people know that either.
We're so enlightening on this podcast, so they know it now, and then promptly forget it because I'm sure we'll have to tell them again later.
I might forget.
Well, I might forget. We are stoners, so.
Number one problem.
It is good to see that in many other countries, soups of the meal in themselves variety are also taken seriously. I think they must have had a bad translator on this book as part of the problem.
The translator and the editing could use a little. Well, I'm sure whoever did it did the best they could. It is a little complicated to read out loud.
There are countless soup recipes in Portugal, and they tend to be thick and chewy. Blending only the basic thickener, potatoes, beans, chickpeas, or whatever, and leaving the rest as it is, cut into small pieces, of course. Consommé-type soups are also popular, the best loved being canja, a broth being made with pieces of chicken or just the giblets, with or without the addition of chorico. I'm going to have to see if it's chorico or chorizo.
Right. Probably similar meat product either way.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a sausage. So for more flavor and rice or small pasta. What? Oh, no. I'm not even going to read any more of this. It's too hard. Not doing it.
Okay. Not necessary.
I'm going to check to see where my potatoes are at. Where are my potatoes at? I'm going to find a thick guy. I know that my slices are not terribly consistent.
Yeah, same.
Oh, this is good. Really easily breaking apart.
Okay. I was going to say when I did live in Spain, my host family dad made a soup about once a week. That was my favorite meal that we would have at home for dinner. Mm-hmm. And he made it. It was the only dish he made, though.
It's interesting that you say that because from the Ethiopian cookbook, there's a specific tomato soup recipe in there that they're like, yeah, men don't typically do a lot of cooking in Ethiopia. but this is basically a dish that's only made by men in Ethiopia.
That's so interesting.
So I was like, well, that's different. I'm wondering if I need to get the potato masher out, or maybe even a whisk.
I was going to try a whisk too.
This could really not end well. This whisk is not long enough. I need some more long-handled whisks.
I may end up taking my potatoes out and putting them on this cutting board after hearing you.
I think I may be in the woman that wrote the Portuguese book might be the way forward on that, because this is very challenging to do.
Seems like it with the water. I guess I didn't realize there would be as much liquid, but at this stage. But it makes sense. It's a soup.
It's a soup.
Yeah.
I was like, Becca. I have to change tactics. Now I've just made my job harder because I smashed these all up into little pieces.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, this is working.
Great.
Brilliant. We've increased the dish count by, well, actually I used 0 because I pulled it out and put it in the bowl that had the potatoes in it in the beginning. So, hot tip from Gretchen: always reuse your dishes if you can.
Yeah.
So far it tastes pretty good.
Yay. So just smash, right? They don't have to be completely mashed together, just kind of losing their shape.
Precisely.
Enough. Okay.
It just says smash the potatoes. So I'm going to add my kale.
Did you put your potatoes back in?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to crank my heat back up, get it to a boil. Oh, it's like, what are you doing?
That sound.
I should know the sound of a knife scraping over a cutting board.
This time it was a serrated
strainer.
ladle thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice little serrated ladle thing.
Yeah, it comes in handy for these moments when you need to mash and then slide down the cutting board.
I'm sort of assuming you also used it for your potato retrieval.
Yes. So that was handy for all 3 steps of that process with the potatoes. I did leave some potatoes in there that are big, so it does have kind of a lot of chunks. Yeah, very rustic. Kale going in.
Have I told you lately how much your R2D2 toaster that you sent me for Christmas delights me every time I use it?
I'm so glad. No, you haven't said that, and I'm so glad you said that. That makes me so happy.
It really annoyed the fuck out of my mom, though.
Yeah, it sounded like it was tense in the house for a little while with it.
Because it makes a lot of noise. I mean, it's not quiet. You cannot sneak toast in this house now. I feel like we should do it just for the podcast here. I will.
We should. Maybe we'll do a toast episode. We'll make some fancy toasts. And sorry, I didn't.
So it does this twice. Once at the beginning of the cooking and once when it's ending, which I kind of love the fact that it tells you, like, it starts before it's over.
Oh, okay.
Because so you're like you can be here.
Little warning.
Get your toast out as soon as it's hot.
I love that.
It's pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie.
Yay. Star Wars toasters to the rescue.
To rescue you from boring toasters.
Yeah, exactly.
Woo! That's the smallest piece of bread I've ever put in there. It really launched it.
When do we call it then?
I'm calling mine.
Okay.
I mean, I could let it cook down a little bit longer, and since it is the middle, well, I guess it's not really the middle of the afternoon anymore. A little early for dinner, so I'm going to just turn it off and let it sit here on the stove for a while.
Okay.
Until I'm hungry later.
Nice. Because really all you need at this step is your kale to be softened?
Yes, that is correct. Just waiting for the softening of the kale.
Okay, we made it through the end. We finished our soup. We toasted our bread. We listened to Gretchen's toaster, which was super fun. Final thoughts. I loved this soup. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was really warming, and we talked about it being comforting. It did feel comforting, but it also just felt really light, even though it was it had all these potatoes in it. I didn't like the black olives on top. I felt like it added a kind of weird texture once they had softened into the soup, and I just thought it took away So I wouldn't do black olives on top next time. I don't know if there's something else I'd swap it with, but I think for me, the soup was great. It didn't need that extra black olive.
Oh, see, and I love the olives in it. And for me, that was really unusual, which is why I think I was so hooked on it. Like, as an idea, was like, I've never seen anybody just throw some black olives on a soup before. So I was like, I have to try that. I liked it, but I also love, like, anytime I could eat olives. So,
I usually just get pizza with black olives. And so this threw me, but I don't know. Maybe my olives weren't very good.
that's entirely possible. I did end up trying putting the Parma salami on the soup, and it was delicious. But I also ate it several times with nothing on top. So just a really good, easy, straightforward, comes together quick soup, which is always a nice thing to have in your playbook, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. A good go-to. And again, since it's pretty simple ingredients, you don't necessarily often have all of those, but they're pretty easy to get. So it can be an easy meal.
Thank you to the Portuguese for this amazing soup. My life was incomplete. I mean, it's still
We didn't
probably,
know.
I mean, my life is still probably incomplete, but I feel like it's a step further. I have
Yeah,
this in
you've
my
got
life.
green broth beside you now
Yes.
for the rest of the journey. So thanks for joining us, Gluttoners. We hope you're enjoying your gluttony journey so far. We've been having a lot of fun. This was a good one too for us. I think, as we said, we both loved it. We both really enjoyed it. So we hope you do too.
And make sure you check out the website, hightogluttony.com, for more thoughts, and as well as the resources we used for this episode. And like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and find us on the socials at High Gluttony.
And email us at hightogluttony@hightogluttony.com.
Yeah, email us. Please send us an email. It'd be nice to get one.
Yeah, we'd love one email.
Just one.
Just one. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Bye.
Bye.